Ever wondered what things make absolutely no sense once you hit 70? Well, it's time to uncover the surprising truths that can make your golden years even better. As we age, our perspective on life changes, and some things that seemed important before just don't hold the same weight anymore. In today's video, we'll dive into 9 things that don't make sense after 70, with real stories from people who've been through it. These are the life lessons and eye-opening moments that will change the way you think about growing older. Let's get started. 1. Holding on to clutter. As we age, many of us develop a habit of holding on to things, whether it's sentimental items, old clothes, or things we might need just in case. But after 70, this need to cling to the past can start to feel more like a burden than a comfort. Let's talk about Doris, a 74-year-old woman who spent years keeping things in her home. Everything from unused kitchen gadgets to piles of old clothes, books, and even paperwork that hadn't seen the light of day in decades. She always thought, what if I need it someday? It wasn't until one afternoon when she was struggling to move around her cluttered living room that she realized how much stress all this stuff was causing her. Doris decided it was time for a change. She began slowly decluttering her home, getting rid of things she hadn't used in years, and asking herself if each item truly brought value to her life. It wasn't easy at first, and there were moments of doubt. But as Doris cleared out old, unnecessary items, she started to feel lighter. Her home became a space she could enjoy, and she noticed how much more relaxed and at peace she felt without the constant reminder of stuff weighing her down. The freedom Doris experienced from decluttering was life-changing. It wasn't just about getting rid of physical objects, it was about letting go of the mental clutter that had been holding her back. By simplifying her surroundings, Doris made room for the things that truly mattered. Moments with family, hobbies she loved, and a home that felt peaceful and open. At 74, Doris found that less stuff really did equal less stress, and that's a lesson she'll carry with her for the rest of her life. 2. Being afraid to ask for help. One of the most common things that doesn't make sense after 70 is the reluctance to ask for help. Many of us, especially as we get older, pride ourselves on being independent, on doing things ourselves. But here's the thing. Asking for help isn't a weakness. It's a sign of wisdom and strength. Take Bill, for example. At 78, Bill had always prided himself on his ability to take care of everything on his own. Whether it was fixing things around the house, handling his finances, or even taking care of his garden, Bill believed that asking for help would make him seem less capable, and he wasn't having any of that. But everything changed one winter afternoon. Bill was out shoveling snow from his driveway when he slipped and fell, injuring his hip. Suddenly, the man who had done everything himself was in pain and unable to get around. It was a wake-up call. In that moment, he realized he couldn't do it all alone anymore. His family rushed to his side, helping him with everyday tasks like cooking, cleaning, and running errands. At first, Bill struggled with the idea of relying on others, feeling like a burden. But as the days passed, he began to see things differently. He realized that asking for help didn't make him less independent. It allowed him to focus on healing and preserving his energy. Through this experience, Bill learned that there's no shame in leaning on those who care about you. In fact, it was his ability to accept help that allowed him to recover more quickly and with less stress. Today, Bill isn't afraid to ask for help when he needs it. He understands that it's not about giving up independence, but about knowing when to tap into the strength and support of those around him. In fact, he now believes that asking for help is one of the smartest things you can do, especially as you grow older. It's not a sign of weakness. It's a sign that you're in touch with what truly matters: your health, your happiness, and the people who care about you. 3. Staying in toxic relationships. As we grow older, we often realize that the people we surround ourselves with can have a huge impact on our overall happiness. One thing that doesn't make sense after 70 is staying in toxic relationships. Whether it's a long-standing friendship, family dynamic, or even a romantic relationship, holding on to negativity or people who drain us can take a serious toll on our well-being. Let me tell you about Jane, an 80-year-old woman who spent decades clinging to a friendship that, over time, had become more and more toxic. For years, Jane and her friend Carol had been inseparable. They'd shared laughs, memories, and even supported each other through tough times. But as Jane got older, she noticed something troubling. Every time she spent time with Carol, she felt emotionally drained, upset, and even more stressed. Carol, who had become increasingly critical and negative, would often complain about her life, leaving Jane to pick up the emotional pieces. Jane didn't want to let go of the friendship. After all, they had been friends for so long. But one day, as she reflected on how her energy was constantly being sapped, Jane realized it was time for a change. It was a difficult decision, but Jane finally made the choice to distance herself from Carol. At first, she felt guilty, thinking she was being harsh or unkind, but over time, she began to experience a sense of peace she hadn't felt in years. Without the constant negativity in her life, Jane found more room for positive relationships, connections that brought her joy, laughter, and support. She rekindled old friendships with people who made her feel valued, and she even made new friends who shared her interests and outlook on life. As Jane embraced more positive connections, she noticed a significant shift in her energy, her mood, and her overall sense of well-being. Jane's story is a powerful reminder that it's never too late to let go of toxic relationships. By doing so, we make space for the kinds of relationships that nourish our souls, help us grow, and allow us to truly enjoy the best years of our lives. 4. Ignoring health problems. As we age, taking care of our health becomes more important than ever. Yet one thing that often doesn't make sense after 70 is ignoring health problems. It can be easy to brush off certain symptoms or convince ourselves that we're just getting older. However, as George, a 72-year-old man, discovered, ignoring health issues can have serious consequences. For years, George had high blood pressure but didn't take it seriously. He'd been told by his doctor that he needed to monitor it, but the medication felt unnecessary to him. "I'm fine," he thought. "I feel okay, and I don't want to be on medication for the rest of my life." It wasn't until one morning, when George woke up with a severe headache and a feeling of numbness in his arm, that he realized how wrong he was. He'd had a mild stroke. George was lucky. He was able to get medical help quickly, but the experience left him shaken. It was a wake-up call that opened his eyes to the reality that ignoring his health wasn't just an oversight. It was a gamble. If he hadn't been so stubborn, he might have been able to prevent the stroke altogether by managing his blood pressure more carefully. In the months that followed, George made a commitment to his health that he had never made before. He started taking his medication as prescribed, followed his doctor's advice, and began making healthier lifestyle changes, like eating better, getting regular exercise, and reducing stress. George learned that taking care of his health wasn't just a choice. It was a responsibility, not only to himself, but to his loved ones, who wanted him to live a long, healthy life. Today, George feels stronger, more energized, and more in control of his health than ever before. His story is a powerful reminder that we can't afford to ignore our bodies, no matter how minor the issue might seem. Addressing health problems early on is essential for ensuring we can continue to enjoy the things we love well into our later years. 5. Trying to keep up with technology. In today's fast-paced world, technology seems to evolve at lightning speed, and keeping up with it can feel overwhelming, especially as we get older. For many seniors, the pressure to stay up to date with every new gadget, app, or software can create unnecessary stress. Let's talk about Emily, a 75-year-old woman who tried to master every new piece of technology that came her way. From smartphones to smartwatches and even the latest social media platforms, Emily was determined to stay on top of it all. At first, she was excited to learn how to use these tools. After all, they promised to keep her connected and make life easier. But as the months went by, Emily found herself more frustrated than ever. She spent countless hours trying to figure out new gadgets, only to find herself overwhelmed by confusing settings and constant updates. Her once simple and enjoyable online experiences became sources of stress. Emily wasn't alone. Many people her age feel the pressure to keep up with the rapidly changing tech landscape, but for Emily it reached a breaking point. One day, after trying and failing to set up a new tablet, she decided enough was enough. She realized that all this tech was taking away from the simple pleasures of life. Now, Emily sticks to the basics. Her trusty smartphone is all she needs to stay connected with her family and friends, and she still enjoys taking photos with her camera. No need for complicated apps or filters. Emily has found peace in simplifying her approach to technology. She still uses her phone for calls, messages, and video chats with loved ones, but she no longer feels the pressure to keep up with the latest trends. By cutting out the tech stress, Emily has been able to enjoy her life more fully. She's present in the moment and focuses on the things that truly bring her joy, like spending time with her family, gardening, and reading books. Emily's story is a great reminder that technology doesn't have to be a source of stress. We don't need to master every gadget or trend to live a happy and fulfilled life. Sometimes, sticking to the basics and embracing what works for you is the best way to go. After all, life is too short to be constantly frustrated by technology. 6. Avoiding change out of fear. As we grow older, it's easy to fall into the comfort of familiar routines. The thought of change can be intimidating, and we often avoid it out of fear. Fear of the unknown, fear of failure, or even fear of leaving behind what we've always known. But here's the thing. Avoiding change can keep us stuck in a cycle of unhappiness. Let me share Frank's story, a 77-year-old man who spent most of his life in the same routine. Frank had a stable job, a quiet home, and a predictable day-to-day schedule. But for years, he felt something was missing. He wasn't particularly unhappy, but he wasn't exactly joyful either. The idea of trying something new seemed daunting, so he stuck to what was familiar, even though it no longer brought him the satisfaction it once did. One day, while visiting his neighbor, Frank noticed how much joy she got from her beautiful garden. Her flowers were in full bloom, and she spoke with such passion about the joy of growing them. Frank had never thought of himself as a gardener, but something about the way his neighbor lit up when talking about it sparked his curiosity. At first he resisted. "I'm too old for something like that," he thought. "What if I fail? What if I make a mess?" But eventually, Frank decided to give it a try. He started small, planting a few flowers in his backyard. At first he wasn't sure what he was doing, but he kept at it. Before long, Frank began to see the beauty in his own garden. As the flowers bloomed, so did his sense of fulfillment. Gardening became more than just a hobby. It became a source of joy, relaxation, and even pride. He learned that by embracing change, he had discovered a world of possibility he hadn't known existed. Frank's fear of change had held him back for so long, but once he stepped outside of his comfort zone, he found a new passion that enriched his life in ways he never imagined. Now, Frank is a strong believer that change can be a wonderful thing, even at any age. His story reminds us that embracing new experiences, whether big or small, can bring fresh joy and fulfillment into our lives. It's never too late to try something new and step outside of your routine. Sometimes, the things we fear most are the very things that lead us to a richer, more vibrant life. 7. Overworking or staying busy for the sake of it. As we age, there's often a temptation to stay busy, to fill our time with tasks and obligations, sometimes just for the sake of it. Many of us have spent our entire lives working hard, juggling responsibilities, and striving to meet deadlines. The idea of slowing down or resting can feel almost unnatural, especially when we've been conditioned to believe that productivity equals worth. But here's the thing. Once you hit 70, it's time to embrace the value of rest and relaxation. Let me tell you about Margaret, a 79-year-old woman who spent the majority of her life in a constant state of motion, always working, always staying busy. She had a demanding career, a family to care for, and countless other commitments that kept her on her toes. It was only when Margaret retired that she realized she hadn't truly allowed herself the time to rest. At first, retirement was a challenge for Margaret. She struggled with the idea of no longer having a packed schedule. She kept herself busy with small tasks around the house, and while she enjoyed those things, she found herself feeling tired and sometimes even resentful of the constant to-do list she had created for herself. It wasn't until she spoke to a friend who had been retired for a few years that Margaret realized something important. Rest is just as valuable as work, especially when you've spent so many years giving your all. Slowly, Margaret began to change her approach. Instead of staying busy for the sake of staying busy, she started making time for herself. She began enjoying daily naps, something she had never allowed herself to do before. Margaret also started taking leisurely walks in the park, something that brought her both peace and joy. As she embraced these moments of rest and leisure, she realized that they were not only important for her physical health, but also essential for her mental well-being. The pressure to be constantly productive had lifted, and with it came a newfound sense of freedom. Margaret's story is a reminder that overworking or staying busy just for the sake of it can be draining and unsustainable, especially in later years. After decades of hard work, it's essential to allow yourself the grace of rest. Whether it's taking naps, going for a walk, or simply sitting down with a good book, these moments of stillness and relaxation can rejuvenate both body and mind. After all, life after 70 should be about balance. Working hard, yes, but also making space to enjoy the fruits of that labor and savor the simpler, quieter moments that come with age. 8. Spending money on things that don't matter. As we get older, our priorities often shift, and we start to realize that some things that once seemed so important, like keeping up with the latest gadgets or having the newest car, aren't nearly as fulfilling as we once thought. For Harry, a 73-year-old man, this realization came after years of spending his hard-earned money on things that didn't bring him true joy. Harry was always an early adopter of the latest technology, whether it was the newest smartphone, the flashiest TV, or the most high-tech kitchen gadget. He spent a small fortune on items that promised to make life more convenient or exciting, but in reality, he barely used most of them. The excitement of having the latest must-have quickly wore off, and he found himself surrounded by items that only collected dust, never delivering the happiness he had expected. One day, while going through his collection of unused gadgets, Harry had an epiphany. He realized that all these things, these shiny, expensive items, didn't bring him the fulfillment he craved. In fact, they only caused stress, as he constantly felt the pressure to stay updated with new technology and gadgets. It dawned on him that what he really wanted were meaningful experiences, things that brought him true joy and connected him with the people he loved. So, Harry decided to change his approach to spending. Instead of splurging on the latest gadget, he started investing in experiences that truly mattered to him, like family vacations, weekend getaways, and meaningful outings with his friends. Harry's shift in priorities brought a newfound sense of happiness and peace. Rather than focusing on accumulating possessions, he now cherished the moments spent with his children and grandchildren, creating memories that would last a lifetime. He learned that the value of experiences far outweighs the fleeting pleasure of material things. His story is a powerful reminder that, as we age, we should consider what truly brings us happiness. The things we own are temporary, but the memories we create with the people we love are what really enrich our lives. In Harry's case, spending money on experiences brought him more joy and fulfillment than any gadget ever could. His story encourages all of us to reflect on where we're putting our money and whether those purchases align with what truly matters to us. In the end, it's the experiences, those moments of connection, adventure, and joy that are priceless and worth every penny. 9. Holding on to old grudges. As we age, we start to realize that life is too short to hold on to grudges. The weight of anger and resentment can hold us back from experiencing true peace and happiness. Linda, an 82-year-old woman, carried a grudge against her sister for decades. It all started many years ago when a misunderstanding between them led to a fallout that neither of them ever fully addressed. Over time, the grudge grew, and every family gathering, every birthday, was overshadowed by the tension that lingered between them. Linda's heart ached every time she thought about her sister, but she couldn't bring herself to let go of the past. The anger felt justified, and it became a part of her life story. But as time passed, Linda began to feel the burden of that anger. She realized that it was taking up space in her heart, preventing her from fully enjoying her family and the good moments she had left. After reflecting on her own experiences and the fleeting nature of time, Linda finally decided to reach out to her sister. They hadn't spoken in years, but Linda knew that it was time to heal the old wound. The conversation was emotional, but it was also freeing. They both apologized for the hurt they caused each other, and in that moment, Linda felt a weight lift off her shoulders. She understood that holding on to that grudge had only caused her pain. It was never about her sister, but about her own inability to forgive. After that heart-to-heart talk, Linda found peace. The anger that once defined her relationship with her sister melted away, and in its place, there was understanding and love. Linda's story is a powerful reminder that life is too short to hold on to grudges, especially when they prevent us from experiencing the joy that comes from forgiveness. Holding on to past hurts only keeps us stuck in the past, and it takes away our ability to fully live in the present. By letting go of resentment, we create space for peace, healing, and the kind of relationships that truly nourish us. Linda learned that forgiveness isn't just a gift for the person who wronged us. It's a gift we give ourselves. It frees us from the emotional burden of holding on to anger and allows us to embrace the beauty of reconciliation. So, as we grow older, let's remember that holding on to old grudges only steals our peace. Life is too precious to waste on anger, and by letting go, we open ourselves up to the healing power of forgiveness and the love that can follow. Conclusion. And there you have it. 9 things that don't make sense after 70. As we've seen through the stories of people like Doris, Bill, Jane, and others, life becomes so much more fulfilling when we let go of what no longer serves us. Whether it's clutter, grudges, or outdated habits, embracing change and prioritizing what truly matters can bring us peace and happiness in our golden years. Thank you so much for watching. If any of these insights resonated with you, leave a comment below. Just type 9 or 0 to let me know which part stood out the most. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Take care, and see you in the next video.